I call it the Prince Royce of freestyle. That little voice, you know.
I never thought of that, but I
Yeah,
think
Me neither, but now I'm going to think about it.
you know?
Yeah.
Style.
You're definitely onto something here,
You know?
buddy. I
There you
think. Yeah.
Drop the beat.
A freestyle podcast.
Hey everyone, so if you remember the mid-'80s and the early '90s and you remember drum machines, heartfelt lyrics, you are in the right place. Welcome to Drop the Beat, a freestyle podcast where we take you back to the clubs, to the mixes, and all the things that made freestyle more than just music and made it a lifestyle.
that's right. We're Eli and John, and in each episode we dig into the history, the evolution, and the untold stories of freestyle, starting in the early 80s all the way through the 90s. This is for the DJs, the dancers, and for everyone in between who never let the sound fade.
That's right, so let's turn it up, take it back, and drop the beat.
So in this episode, we actually have something new for you guys. We have a guest host. We'd like to introduce our friend, guest host, fellow freestyle fanatic, Eddie. So everybody welcome Eddie.
Hey, pleasure to be on.
Mr. Eddie in the house. How are you, buddy?
Doing great. You guys are doing great on this podcast. I love it. The information is one of a kind, man. You guys are doing great, John.
Well, at least we have one fan. That's good.
Yeah.
No.
We got to
We
spread the
appreciate
word.
our one fan. So if we get any more fans, maybe we might have more guest hosts. We'll see.
No, good to have you with us, Eddie. Good to have you on board,
Pleasure
buddy.
to be here with you guys.
Hey, so Eddie, so for, all the fans out there too, all the other listeners besides just you, maybe you could introduce yourself by just telling a little bit, not necessarily about yourself, but about your freestyle foray. So, for instance, what was your earliest freestyle discovery or that you remember back in the day?
I remember back in the days growing up in Philadelphia, it was really rap heavy set where I was at, going to parties, listening to rap. That was the thing to do. But I went to a party around I think it was 85. And I first heard I Wonder If I Take You Home, Lisa, Cult Jam. I didn't know what it was. I was like,
Talking my language now,
Right?
Eddie. We're talking together now. Yeah.
it wasn't really Latin, like salsa, but it wasn't,
Yeah.
and I heard it and I fell in love with it. I didn't know really what it was, but then a little later on I heard Show Me, that song.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
I was
Girls.
like, I fell in love with it. And ever since then, I liked it. I had a buddy that was a DJ as well. And he started transitioning from what he was doing into freestyle. And every single party we went to, it was a hit. And I was hooked automatically.
In Philly, it was pretty big then, right? At the parties, freestyle was?
Oh, yeah. Philly,
You
they
guys were parties,
had
yeah.
basement parties, weddings.
Yeah.
But the thing that took it over the edge was like the dancers. We actually had like sets, like dancing sets, the different
nice.
songs that we should do. So it was big.
Okay, cool,
Nice,
cool.
nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. And just to let you guys know, Eddie and I are actually DJ partners. So we both came up. Our first, not first, but a big part of our youth and what shaped us was DJing freestyle. So and it continues until today, actually. Eddie, so if you had to put, and we asked each other this question in our inaugural podcast, but if you had to put your own Mount Rushmore of freestyle artists, who would be on that Mount Rushmore?
I think the ones that impacted me the most, and might not be everyone else's favorite, but Little Susie, Take Me Home was one of the biggest songs for me. Then it was TK, of course, all their songs. Latin influence was huge. And then you have to put Spring Love, Stevie B. He's on my... He's the one that really solidified everything for freestyle.
All right.
So Stevie B has to be
Yeah,
on
he's
that.
the king.
Yes,
He's the king
sir.
of freestyle. So
All right.
I think so anyway. Yeah.
So you're my Mount Rushmore are similar, right? Except for your Little Susie is replaced by Cynthia on mine. So
There you go.
but very similar, very similar.
Yeah.
Good. All right, that's great. So a lot of good artists there, a lot of good music, and that's what this podcast is about, right? We're going to be playing some snippets for you, like we do all the time, talking about some of those songs and talking about freestyle history, right? As one of our listeners put when they commented on our podcast, right, they called us freestyle historians, which I thought was quite the compliment. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I know enough
It is
to
a
be
compliment.
a freestyle historian.
It is a
Very
compliment.
appropriate.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's a compliment. Yeah.
Yeah,
At least it didn't say freestyle nerds, which
Yeah.
that's
No,
at least that
definitely.
didn't happen. Yeah.
So in our episode today, what we're going to be diving into a little bit is the divide, and I don't want to. Divide is the wrong word, but between New York
Difference.
and Miami, difference. Difference is a lot more appropriate, right? Because it's kind of between those of us who are freestyle heads. You kind of think that there's a Miami sound, there's a New York City sound. I wouldn't say one is better than the other, but I would say that many people have a distinct preference as to what they like over the other. But maybe the question, you ask yourself, some of you that maybe are not as into the culture and into the sound as others, is what's the difference? What distinguishes Miami versus New York sound. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So, what I want to try to do, what we want to try to do is stay away from either the three of us kind of telling what our preference is till we're done. So why don't we talk about the differences between the two, and then we could go into what our each of our preferences are. So,
and there's no right or wrong answer here, right, Eli? I mean,
Right.
it's really, like you said, it's preference based, right? And I think we'll find some interesting things as we go along, that even things that you and I, when we started prepping for this, right, they kind of surprised us as well. So looking forward to getting into this. Yeah.
Exactly. So, John, why don't you take it away? Why don't you start talking about one of those two styles?
So, again, I think it has a lot to do with preference, right? So I think when you look at the Miami style, all right, even though I live in Florida now, right, Miami style is one that I think was a little bit more towards the dance, right? New York had a little bit more of a grittier sound. I think when you listen to New York freestyle, and you guys can agree or disagree with me, most of those lyrics are heartbreaking, right?
Yep.
When you listen to the lyrics, it's about, I lost you, come back, It's a lot of that going on. Whereas, when you listen to some of the folks that are, doing the Miami sound per se, which is really kind of happening around the same time, it's more geared towards dance, right? And it's a little bit happier. I don't know if happier is the right word, but it's a little bit happier lyric-wise anyway, right?
Yeah.
I think the difference also is when you look at some of the beats that are in the New York style. I think, Eli, you use it a lot. When you say it's a little bit grittier beat, right? It's a little bit of a harder beat. Mm-hmm. It's harder. It's a harder beat, right? And whereas Miami is still a little bit more of a flow, right? It's a little bit more of a flow. But when you talk about the Miami sound, I think when I think about the Miami sound, and I've mentioned this in previous podcasts, right? I think the original Expose, right? The first three that were out there touring around in the Miami area before the next three kind of took over. And it was Point of No Return, right? When they were doing that, they were doing a great song with that. So when that kind of, to me, kind of solidified the Miami sound. And then when Stevie B came in, he kind of really amplified that Miami sound. So I think lyric-wise, it's a little bit different. I think the lyrics, like I said, are a little bit happier. I think New York, and it really also kind of has to do with like the town, right? New York's a little bit of a little bit tougher town, a little grittier town, and then Miami's kind of like this cultural flow type thing. So I think it contributes to the sounds. Again, no right or wrong there, right? It's just a little bit different. And if you think about, with the exception of Lisa, who was New York based, right? Most of my favorite artists are from the Miami sound, I would think, right? If I would say like Expose, Trinier was another good one, right? So I think a lot of them are, my preference wise, always leaned a little bit more towards the Miami sound, without even realizing it, actually, right? It always never really dawned on me that it was more like that.
Yeah. And one point I think we need to make, though, is even though it's called the New York sound versus, the Miami sound, really it's based on the sound. It's not based on where the artist was from, right? So, like you said, Lisa, she was from New York, but especially, her early and her later stuff, aside from, I think, Can You Feel the Beat was New York sound. But Take Me Home and,
Lost in Emotion.
Right. Was a Miami sound.
I always
Head to Toe.
I equated to like the rap music at the time it was either street rap music or radio rap music, right? So I equated that to the Miami sound with the synthesizers and the bright music, danceable stuff, and then you have the New York style was, like you say, more gritty, That's I always equated to like the rap at the time, where he had the radio style and the basement style
Yeah.
stuff, music. So
Yep.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yep.
Give me, I think, a good example of that, at least to me anyway, would be Sweet Sensation, right? So Sweet Sensation was based in the Bronx, right? They all lived in the Bronx, and that was where they got their start. But if you listen to their style and the way that their music is a little bit more geared towards dance, you would think that they were based in Miami, right? But they're really actually based in the Bronx.
Right. But yeah, but their song, I would say that the majority of their sound is Miami, right? Even though they were based out of the Bronx.
Oh yeah.
So I definitely agree with that. And one thing that I notice is the ones that got more mainstream, and when I say mainstream, more nationally mainstream, right? Because in those meccas of New York and Miami, I'm sure that they were getting their radio play, but mainstream nationally, the ones that got more radio play, I think, was more the Miami sound type of songs. That's what we heard more, outside of those big metro areas.
I would agree. And Eddie, Will to Power, right?
Oh, yeah.
Would you consider that? Yeah, that went mainstream, don't you think?
Definitely, yeah. I think they were, since they were trying to transition to get everyone to listen, they had to kind of, like you said, make it more about love story, less gritty. Yeah. So that helped transition too,
Yeah. Yep,
big help.
What was their largest hit, Eli? It was Dreaming, wasn't it? Will to Power?
I actually think, was it Fading Away?
Fading Away, that's the one.
Yeah, I think Fading Away might have been a bigger hit than even though Dreaming is my favorite by them by far. I love that song, and that one actually, to me, even though it has more the elements of Miami sound, but it almost crosses over to New York. So I think that there's something just there, you can't even put it into a distinct category. I think most of Stevie B stuff, for instance, even though there's a lot of aspects of Miami sound to it in a lot of his songs, there's one or two that really, the New York scene really grasped onto, and maybe some just by the remixes too, because I listened to, for instance, let's take Spring Love, and you listen to the radio edit version, and the synth in it is real bright sounding. It has a more poppier sound. And then you listen to the club edit, which is what I grew up listening to, what I would use when I mix that song in my DJing sets and things like that. And it has a more of a New York hard hitting beats. The synth is different. They actually redid it in the remix with a different synth sound and all. So even that same song, two different remixes, I think put it in each of the two camps. So which
12-inch cuts were something else.
12-inch cuts, man. The DJ's best friend.
Yep, exactly.
I think they were heavily influenced by that Latin music, right? Maybe even salsa, because incorporates those tempos, those melodic elements of salsa. Really, was what they were trying to emulate, I guess, at the time.
Exactly. So just let's summarize a little bit, and then we'll hear a couple of clips and maybe just analyze and mention what makes it one type of sound or the other. But basically, the New York sound we're saying was more urban, more underground and gritty, right? Miami was more expressive, romantic, a little bit more pop, especially with its lyrics and its hooks and melodies too. New York tended to be more moody, more centered on heartbreak, right, John? You said that, which was a good description of that, right? Yeah. And definitely the sound of New York was rawer and more underground versus the more polished Miami sound. So I think that kind of sums up those two different camps or sounds of freestyle. But the thing is even though there may be a preference to one or the other, most freestyle listeners and freestyle heads, like all of it. So and that's how
we
I
don't
feel.
care.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So maybe it's
we just enjoy listening to it. That's right. Yeah.
Some of that nostalgia is people our age hearing those melodic sounds under heartbreak. We were like 14, 15 years old. Somebody just broke our heart. So these songs like really resonate with us even now, because it takes us back.
TKA, right?
Yeah.
Louder Than Love, TKA. That's a very sad song when you think about it, right? It's about breakup.
Yeah.
Right.
Great song, though. Great song,
Yep.
yeah.
Definitely. So let's hear a couple of these tracks. So let's talking about TKA, one of my favorites. So then we can start out with them, which is "Come Get My Love." Right now, when you listen to this track, which camp would you put it in?
That kind of Boy, that's kind of in the middle there. But I'd still say New York.
Yeah, I would say New York too. But that earlier sound, the synth melody was definitely a bit more Miami sounding, right?
Yeah.
But then that beat comes in and just solidifies it. You know what I mean? It's a little grittier. It's different. Yeah.
Yep. No, definitely. That's what I think too. So that's example number 1. So let's go to example number 2 now. On another, this was another male-led song. Noel, Like a Child. Again, what can't
Noel, yeah. That's New York all day long, I think.
Yeah, New York all day long too. In fact, probably the first half of what I'm going to play is all New York, and then we'll go to Miami. But again,
and Noel's still touring, still out there. If you guys get a chance to go see him, check him out.
I would
on
like
a nice
to.
show.
No, I haven't had an opportunity.
It's on a good show.
By the way, the tickets for these shows are going up due to popularity.
Yes, they are.
Everything is going up.
Yes, they are.
That's a good sign, though. You know,
They really are.
back.
Yeah, definitely. That is a good sign. All right, so now let's go to female led song here.
Oh,
One of my favorites.
who doesn't know that little? Yeah.
Yeah, so
Cover Girls.
Because of You.
Because
Now-
of you. Yeah.
Now this song did get mainstream pop release. I remember this one being on the radio back in our small town.
Yeah.
But again, there's some aspects of Miami, even though I think their cover girls are primarily New York sound. You know, and,
They're New York based. Yeah.
so and their sound too. And again, those more the harder, those underground beats too in the songs.
Yeah.
All right, so now the next one definitely I think there's no mistaking whether this is New York or Miami on this one.
Oh, Judy Torres.
Yeah, I think this is one of Eddie's favorites, right, Eddie?
Yeah, I saw her live.
You're a Judy Torres fan, Eddie? Oh,
I
yeah?
saw her live at La Luna nightclub over there. It's 18 and under at the time, and she was there with Coro, and boy, they killed it. And the good thing about them was seeing them live. It wasn't like they were mega stars. So after the show, they would come out and hang out with us. So it was like they were just hanging out with everyone. It was Coro, Judy Torres, and all these other artists, and they just, after their set, they came on down off the stage and were hanging with us and regular normal people.
Now,
it's cool.
It's funny because we talked about this, and maybe Eli's told you this, Eddie, but there's a friend of mine here in the Orlando area who actually wrote a freestyle song, and he performed it. He opened for Judy Torres.
Wow, that's awesome.
So we're gonna have him on the later podcast later on. He had some really nice things to say about her.
Yeah, she was sweet.
I mean,
nice.
she was. We kind of had a debate, right? Who was the queen of freestyle, right? In my mind, it's Lisa, but a lot of folks think it's Judy Torres.
I'll tell you what.
Do you think it's Judy Torres?
My personal preference would be Judy Torres, only because I met her and she was the best. She was the sweetest, man.
So there's a little bias there, I think.
I think
it's
what
a
it
little.
is.
Yeah.
And then Eddie made mention of this artist right here.
Coral.
So this is Coro. So this was the first song that I remember that they just made use of the piano like that, right? That actually had some classical sounding kind of piano introduction, which was very different.
And then the beat hits.
Yep.
He's released new music too. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. He's actually released some new music recently.
Okay, I didn't know that. Is it pop music?
Yeah, it's more pop. I would have to say, when I saw him at a show and he played some of his newer songs, definitely leaned more towards pop than it did a freestyle. Definitely.
Gotcha. One thing that I learned about him doing some show prep too is that he actually spent a lot of time in Miami. So when freestyle was coming out, he was actually in the Miami area. He was an extra on Miami Vice, in fact.
Wow.
He met up with Stevie B down in Miami, and Stevie B was touring. He actually went on tour with Stevie B as a backup dancer and singer, and he got that encouragement. And he went back up north and got with some freestyle producers up north and started to do his own stuff. So in '89, he came out with this song, and I think he was probably the biggest male freestyle singer between like '89 until maybe not the biggest. I think then he was competing against George Lamond, but him and George Lamond, the late '80s, early '90s were kind of the biggies.
Can't Let You Go was one of my repeat playlists. I'll tell you right now.
I think 1991 on that.
That was a good cut.
That was my favorite cut.
So now
actually, I don't know if Eli remembers this or not, but we years ago in Reading, Pennsylvania, we went to a party. friend through, and the DJ, the only thing he played, at least for 5 songs in a row, were choral.
Really?
I was like, does he have anything else going on? But yeah, he at least 4 or 5 songs in a row, he just played choral, and I thought,
interesting. He only had 4 or 5 songs.
That's great.
So
Exactly.
Yeah, and I was like, he just
set.
brought out all his hits, his whole set, and played. That's all he did. Yeah,
He played
never
the
forgot
catalog.
that. Yeah,
That's awesome.
That's it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move to Miami. And the Miami sound, I mean, you can never forget when you talk about the Miami sound, this individual, which is Debbie Deb.
Debbie
Because
Deb, yeah.
and she's early. She's very early. You know, her music came out between 83 and 85. So she was in that early era of freestyle. But it had a closer pop sound at that time, you know, what was out on the radio. And you know, so I think she fits down in Miami camp, and she is from, you know, South Florida, I believe, too. So.
Yeah. Eddie, what do you think about her other song, When I Hear Music?
Oh no, this is a classic too, man. But like I say, when I hear this, I don't inherently think of freestyle like right off the top of my head, and I got to remember that it's in that category. That's for me. That's what Miami sound is to me when I hear it, and not automatically I don't think of freestyle, but then you know it's in that genre. That's Miami freestyle in a nutshell to me.
Yep.
And we have some listeners that make comments on it, and you know, there's definitely a lot of folks out there that they're just as versed on freestyle music, and so I'm curious to see, right, when they're listening to this, to put in the comments what they think. You know, do they agree with our assessment on some of these songs, or what their thoughts are?
I wouldn't be surprised if they disagree with some of it, and you know, just because it's all preference and taste, and you know, it's you know, subjective. So you know, it's definitely.
You could actually put Johnny O in there.
Wouldn't be surprised with that.
Fantasy Girl.
Some of it.
Yeah, Jenny O, that's right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Girl's
Fantasy
like
Girl, I'd say is New York to me. See, that's why I disagree with you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It could be. Yeah, you're right.
But
Johnny O in general, like his other songs.
Some of his other stuff. Yep, exactly. So here's another one I think is Miami, and this one, you may say it's not freestyle and it's more pop, but I think this song does fall in the freestyle camp. But Come Go With Me. This one was a big mainstream hit, right?
Huge hit.
Exactly.
Huge hit.
But
huge hit. And when they came out with Come Go With Me, that was really their first, when they broke out right into the market and mainstream. And I think that's when the 3 new members of it, which were Jeanette, Joya, and Ann, that's when they took it to the next level. But the chorus of that song still has one of their older singers, because they never changed it. But that was a huge hit. Everyone was playing that everywhere, whether it was in a club or on your car radio. Yeah.
In one of our future episodes, I think we've talked about this a little bit. We want to do some artist spotlights, and Expose is definitely going to be a spotlighted artist, just because John knows so much about them. So that's going to be John's monologue in that episode, but we're going to do an expose on Expose. So you know, stay tuned for that one.
There you go. Can't wait to hear that.
I have stuff to talk about, and it's a story that must be told, guys.
Tune in and hit that like button.
But yeah, there you go.
That's right.
All right, next song coming up. We talked about this one. This is Dreamin' by Will to Power, right?
Great song.
Yep. But again, a good example of you know, the Miami sound. Very good song.
I just heard that on the radio here the other day. Actually, I was out. You know, I think it was probably on Sirius XM. Their what is it, Studio 54 channel that they have, and they were actually playing it. They actually play some freestyle on that channel. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but I was listening to it, and that came on.
Yeah, and if you guys are looking for, you know, fresh freestyle sounds, KTU will still play some freestyle. They're available on iHeartMedia. I mean, they're not paying us to plug them, but you can find them on TuneIn, on iHeart, and on TuneIn. There's also a freestyle station. So if you just look up freestyle and TuneIn, you'll find a station there.
I've been listening recently, and I love it. They have some good stuff.
I love
there,
KTU, man. KTU was great.
Definitely.
Great station for that. Yeah.
Actually, when I go get a haircut on Fridays, barber, he hits up some freestyle. So he's about our age.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Right. Is he doing it specially for you, or
that's him? And the barber shop loves it, man. Everybody there is enjoying it. So it will never go away.
So the next one is what we've all said is the king of freestyle, and this one definitely is more of a Miami sound on this one.
Yeah.
Which is Stevie B's In My Eyes, right? It's a great song, great track, but it's that more lovey-dovey type of song, right? The
I call
feel
it the
of
Prince
it, the mood
Royce of freestyle. That little voice, you know.
I never thought of that, but I
Yeah,
think
you
Me
know.
neither, but
You might be onto
now
something.
I'm gonna think
Weekend,
about it.
you know?
Yeah,
Style.
you're definitely onto something
You
here,
know?
buddy. I
There you
think. Yeah.
All right. So next one, we talked about this one too. And this is Take It While It's Hot by Sweet Sensation,
Sweet
right?
Sensation, yeah.
They had this. Sincerely Yours was another one that had more of a Miami sound, more, pop relatable sound. Hooked on You was more of a Miami sound as well. I think Never Let You Go was probably the only one that I would say kind of delved into more of the New York sound as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, but they were, and I think they start because I know they performed. But so far, the only original member there is Betty D. But man, when they would perform, one of the best performing groups out there because they just danced non-stop. They did just a full cardio workout the entire show, and it was incredible to see them out there. It was really, really something to see.
Those are the shows you remember, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Full-
man.
full
And
production.
think about it. They were on American Bandstand, right? They were one of the last acts to appear on American Bandstand before they went out. Before they canceled the show or ended after 600 years or whatever it was. American Bandstand was on. But they were one of the last acts there, and they just tore it up with "Never Let You Go." That was a song that they performed.
Nice.
Yeah.
And here's the last one that we're going to talk about with Miami Sound. This one, I know the song, but it wasn't one that was really on my list too much back in the day. But this is Trinier, right?
Trinier, yeah.
And this is
right
one-
out of Miami. She's from Miami.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And this one had a more of a driving beat, but it still to me has more of the Miami sound to it.
Definitely. Yeah.
So
She has a lot of good hits too. She has a couple good songs that I like that I thought are really good.
So that kind of wraps up our differences between the Miami and the New York sound. And now that we kind of talked about that and went through some of those tracks, so Eddie, for instance, where was your vibe mainly? In which of the two camps?
Definitely New York style. Like I said, it was in the Philly area. It was more about the dancing. You know what I mean? Like you would get there, the freestyle song would kick on, and we'd had our little routines, our little dance routines that would to this day would give me a heart attack. But it was all about the production style, and the beat was a big part of it. You had to feel it. You know what I mean? That bass, that kick. So for me, it's New York, definitely.
How about you, John?
Yeah, I think I probably, land somewhere in between. But if I'm going to lean one way, it's probably going to lean a little bit more towards the Miami sound.
Okay, I'm not surprised by that, and I would have expected that, just knowing who you really like and stuff like that. But good choice nonetheless, right? In my case, it has to be the New York sound, and mainly from the DJ background, right? I have to agree with Eddie. It was all beat related for me. The driving beats, the breaks within them. I was just more attracted to that. And I think it was more from the party and DJ aspect of it. That they put me there. But again, a bunch of good tracks, and a lot of good music that we had at our disposal back in the day. And fortunate thing is we can still listen to it today. So
Those 12-inch cuts were amazing back in the days, and
They were.
every time you would go get a
they
record,
were.
you had to get two. Because you had to mix them up there.
Exactly. So, all right. So that kind of wraps that up, guys. And leave in the comments, right? Which is your favorite? Miami, New York City, or
We wanna
make
know.
no discrimination. Maybe you just liked it
That's
all. Which we ain't gonna hate you for that, right? We won't be mad at you for it. So before we wrap up today's episode, we also want to talk a little bit about maybe put a question out to you guys, and one that we're going to put out to ourselves and discuss for a little bit is, do you think freestyle could ever make a comeback? Something I've thought about a little bit. I've thought about it over the years, right? But kind of, give our perspective of it a little bit. First of all, just kind of before we get into a discussion, a yes or a no. Eddie, what do you think? Do you think freestyle could ever make a comeback?
I'm thinking it definitely can be, because like right now, Top 100 Billboard doesn't have not one rap song on it. The music tastes are changing. Even in the Latin sphere, it's changing from the reggaeton to now salsa and other Latin percussion music. So I'm thinking it's definitely can make a comeback. There is a space for it in the music scene right now. And if you go online, a lot of people are bringing it back. They're actually on YouTube, Instagram. You hear these songs that were classics back in the days, and even like some skits where the kids were like, "Oh, I used to dread my dad playing it," and now they're listening to it. I think there's definitely a space for it, and it needs to come back. And I know that in 2026 there are new artists that are coming out. Yanni J, Dapper Don, Techie Sue, to name a few of them. So it's definitely something that is missing, and in my opinion, it should come back. I think it will come back, actually.
Nice. How about you, John?
So yeah, I think one thing that I've seen throughout my life, and I'm sure a lot of folks have seen, is that things tend to circle back, right? Things tend to come back around. Double-breasted suits were out for a long time. Guess what? They're coming back, right? So there's a lot of that comes back. So yeah, I think it would. I think there's a space that's missing there. Music's changed a lot, right, over the last couple of years, and even when we were coming up in the 80s, 90s, there were actually shows that people went and danced on, and we watched it. Right, and we got to listen to the music, which was cool, but it was also nice to see people dancing to it and whatnot. That got lost somewhere in the 2000s, right? And I have a feeling all that stuff's going to make a comeback. And I think there's going to be certain, like Eddie said, I think there'll be certain folks that are going to be big in moving that forward and bringing it back.
Okay, all right. Now, I agree with you guys to an extent. I think that there is a void, right? That and that it could make a comeback to fill a certain void. But I think that it's going to be an evolved sound. I don't think it's good. If we expect it to be the freestyle that we grew up on, I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I think it's going to be a more evolved sound that's going to be taking from elements from what we grew up on, and even samples from what we grew up on, right?
Sure.
But a full comeback, I think it would be hard pressed for it to come back at how we knew it, right? And I think that's to be expected. You want music to evolve, right? You just don't want a rinse and repeat of something from 30, 40 years ago, right? So
I still think that the 80s were just a spectacular time in music. I think you had some geniuses out there, right? And aside from freestyle, when you look at just the pop scene, 80s were just and we don't even realize it when we were there, right? Now that you look back on it, you're like, wow, man, that really was amazing.
I really think it's going to take someone, a special artist, to bring it back. Like Eli said, I don't think it's going to be exactly the same. It's going to be some kind of variation for it, but they need someone in the public eye to bring it out like Bad Bunny did with salsa music. Now all these kids want to do it, you know what I mean? Like
that's a good point.
Salsa's coming back, so it's going to take someone special to bring it to the forefront, and then that's how it's going to happen, I think.
I can see that.
I mean, and you can't say there hasn't been someone trying, because, for instance, in late 2024, The Weeknd put out a song, Dancing in the Flames, right? It's not a freestyle track per se, but I'm going to play a little bit of the instrumental of it. But you could definitely hear...
It's got elements.
Yeah, it's got elements. The beat, there's some elements. The synth, it's got a Miami sound, right? It's got a Miami freestyle sound to it. And it's there, right? And he's a big star, a big influence and factor in music today. So for him to have done that, right, tells you something that there is a void, and they're itching for some of that, right?
Yeah,
I think it might have to come from social media platforms or something to kickstart it, in my opinion, for it to get traction.
No, definitely. Yeah. Well, one thing I saw that on social media on YouTube was, for instance, last year all over YouTube there was a bunch of Teddy Swims remixes of a couple of his songs of The Door and Bad Dreams. Right. There's one DJ in particular that we can talk about too, who is helping to bring it back, which is DJ Alan Back. I don't know if you've ran into any of his stuff, but he. I heard his stuff was mainly those remixes, the Teddy Swims remixes. But lately, he's been putting out with different artists, different new freestyle songs, right? So that that's something to be said there too.
Yeah. There's one in particular out of Brazil, right? Mara Selting, he's been producing her music. She just released her second freestyle song. I think it was like last Friday, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's big, trying to make things come back.
Yeah, that song actually, John, which is this one, I believe you're talking about.
Just for you.
Just for you, yeah. And if you noticed, he lifted some elements from In My Eyes by Stevie B. That's someone there. And another one of her songs that I had heard that I liked a lot as well was this one, which is I believe it's called "You Break My Heart."
Break My Heart, yeah.
That's another one too that Alan Back put out with Mariselting. So again, some new artists, and he's worked with some other vocalists, one by the name of Makamari, and some others too that he's putting new songs out there. So the listeners out there, look him up. Look up DJ Alan Back. Look up some of the artists that Eddie mentioned as well, right? Those newer artists, and we can start also getting likes and listens for them, so that the music can start getting more play and that too.
Interview them once in a while.
Yeah. We have an open invitation for Lisa. Come on, it's open door. Just come on in. Anytime. But I think as and I mention this every time we have our podcast. If you guys hear these songs and you go out, download them, check them out. Check out the videos for them. Video from the 80s are much different than they are today, right? But and it's a good thing to do for those artists as well, right? So check them out.
I always say that what they did was pretty amazing in the 80s, without social media, without them being played on MTV. I mean, they were everywhere in Philadelphia, New York, Miami. To have those major markets be playing their songs, and then especially at every party that you went to me, that was somewhat of a miracle. I mean, if that would have came out now with social media, it would have been amazing,
Yeah, definitely.
That's when guys would have to literally just get in their car, load them up with whatever it was, and drive and go to the next location, and just self-promote, really.
And I remember making the mixtapes, every Friday, every month there was a new mixtape out there that we spent hours making, and it was a good time.
Yep. So we got to get some of that nowadays. got to get a movement behind it, right? And maybe podcasts like this maybe might help, right? So one last thing, one other influence, and this is something that John, you turned me on to. Basically, there's kind of like a group line dance that's popular in Brazil lately in the last few years.
It's called Passinhos, and I didn't, which means like little steps, basically, right? And just one day I came across it, and I have a brother that's in Brazil, and he mentioned it to me as well. He was aware of it, but really it's sometimes just groups of folks that divide themselves into specific, just like there are samba schools. There's these freestyle groups, and they wear their T-shirts, and they're out there, but I don't think I could handle all the steps that they do. I've looked at them. If you get a chance to look at those videos, how they remember all those steps. It's not like the line dances that we do here, right?
Yeah.
Where there's like 4 or 5 steps. There's like 25 steps that they're doing here. It's pretty intricate. Yeah.
But there's a trend now that they're doing those kind of steps, and that stepping to older freestyle, to 80s and 90s older freestyle music, right?
Yep.
All right, like Stevie B and
still big there.
All right, cool.
All it takes is one thing to go viral, and you know how that goes.
That's it.
Yep, definitely. So hey, we're all looking forward to some type of comeback of freestyle music, right? And we hope it does happen, and we can do our part too by talking about it, listening to it, and streaming and downloading. So, but I think that kind of wraps up, what we wanted to talk about with this episode. What's in store for the future? Well, like we said, we're gonna try to do some artist spotlights. Hopefully, we'll do that in the near future. And also, we want to thank Eddie for coming on and talking with us. Spending some time.
Hey, my pleasure. You guys are doing great, and keep up the good work. This is awesome.
Thanks.
Good to have you with us. Yeah.
And as always, any suggestions, put in the comments, right? Anything you'd like us to talk about, to delve into, give us some ideas, and we'll look into it, and we'll be your freestyle historians, like we were complimented on. So don't forget, we gotta smash the like button, right? Hit that subscribe. Exactly.
Yeah.
We
and
got
the
some
notification
more subscribers
bell for the new ones.
And
the notification bell. I forgot about that one.
Yep, the ding. Make sure you get that too. All right. So we're gonna finish out now with what is going to be our drop the beat track of the day. So due to limitations with YouTube and that platform, we can't play all the snippets that we would like to, and we can't definitely play our drop the beat song of the episode. So for additional content, we advise you to go over to our Mixcloud version of the podcast, which is audio only, but you'll be able to hear and check out that additional sound content.